I moved into the duplex 2 weeks ago. Just me, a couple boxes, and my battered laptop. It wasn't much, but it was quiet and close to campus, which was all I needed. The walls were thin enough that I could hear cartoons playing some afternoons, followed by a gentle voice telling someone it was bedtime. That voice belonged to the woman next door, Emily, I later learned, who lived there with her young son. We'd only exchanged polite neighborly greetings until Thursday afternoon, when she knocked on my door looking slightly frazzled but still warm. "Hey, I know this is random," she started, brushing her hair behind her ear. "But my sitter canceled last minute. I have a short work thing out of town. Just 4 hours, maybe 5, and my son's super easy. Would you be open to babysitting for a bit?" I blinked, surprised. I wasn't exactly the babysitting type, but she looked desperate. Sure, I guess I could. I've got nothing else tonight but ramen and an overdue essay." Her face lit up. "Seriously? You'd be saving me." She quickly explained the basics. His name was Max, 7 years old, loved dinosaurs and hated broccoli. He'd already had dinner, and bedtime was around 9. "My brother might pick him up if I run late," she added. "Just a heads up. I'll text you if that happens." No big deal, I thought. Easy money. I grabbed my hoodie and followed her next door. Max was exactly how she described. Chatty, imaginative, and surprisingly polite. He had a pile of plastic dinosaurs he introduced one by one while I sat cross-legged on the carpet, nodding like I was meeting royalty. "Do you think raptors could beat T-Rexes in real life?" he asked earnestly. "Only if they fought in a dark alley," I said, and he cracked up. By 8:30, he was curled up on the couch under a blanket, dozing off to some animated movie I half-watched while scrolling through my phone. Emily texted just before 9 to say traffic was worse than she thought, and her brother might swing by to get Max if she couldn't make it in time. Cool. No problem. I figured he'd be a carbon copy of her, soft-spoken, warm, maybe a bit rushed. I wasn't expecting anything dramatic. After all, I was just the guy babysitting next door. But then, at 11:02 p.m., a quiet knock came at the door. I stood up, heart thudding a little. I wasn't nervous exactly, just caught off guard. I peeked through the peephole, and that's when everything about this simple evening took a turn. He stood there in the porch light, tall and sharp in a slate-gray coat, the collar turned up slightly like he'd stepped out of some indie film. He wasn't the kind of guy you expected at your door this late. He looked too put together, too composed. Strong jawline, short dark hair, and eyes that flicked up to the peephole like he somehow knew I was watching him. I opened the door. "Hey," he said, voice low and tired. "You must be the sitter." I nodded. "Yeah, Max is asleep. I'm guessing you're the uncle." He smiled slightly. Guilty. That smile stuck in my head longer than it should have. He didn't step in right away, just stood there for a second, looking past me into the dim living room like he was checking for ghosts. "I didn't mean to be this late," he added. "Traffic, meetings, life." "No worries," I said, stepping aside. "Want to come in for a minute?" He hesitated, then nodded once. And that's how the night began. With a knock on the door and a man who didn't look like he belonged in this quiet, sleepy street, but suddenly felt very much part of my night. Max had been asleep for over an hour. He dozed off on the couch midway through his dinosaur documentary, still clutching a stuffed triceratops under one arm. I muted the TV and dimmed the lights, unsure if I should move him or let him be. Emily hadn't texted again, so I figured either she was still stuck in traffic or her brother was taking his time. I sat by the window, phone in hand, pretending to scroll, but my eyes kept drifting to the door. The room was quiet. Too quiet, like the air was waiting for something. I wasn't anxious exactly, just alert. At 11:02 the knock came. 3 steady raps. I got up and checked through the peephole and wow, he wasn't what I expected. Tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, with a fitted wool coat and a scarf draped casually around his neck. His hair was dark and neatly styled, just tousled enough to look like he didn't try too hard. His jawline looked like it could cut through bad decisions. He didn't shift on his feet or glance at his phone. He just stood there, like he belonged there. I opened the door, suddenly hyper-aware that I was wearing mismatched socks and a hoodie with ramen stains. "Hey," he said, voice low and warm. "You must be the babysitter." Yeah. Yeah. I'm watching Max." He smiled, just a flicker. "I'm Daniel, Emily's brother." "Right." I nodded. "He's asleep on the couch. Do you want to come in?" He hesitated for a breath, then stepped in, bringing a chill of night air with him and the faintest scent of something clean and expensive. Not cologne, just subtle, like cedar and late nights. I closed the door behind him. Daniel glanced around the living room like he was assessing the place, his eyes soft but alert. "Thanks for staying late. She texted me and said you were cool about it." "No problem." He was easy. He stepped closer to check on Max. Not too close, just enough to see that he was breathing softly and still wrapped in his blanket. Daniel's shoulders relaxed slightly. "You didn't have to wait up," he said as he turned back to me. I shrugged, trying not to stare. "I couldn't sleep anyway." He arched a brow. "Bad dreams. More like bad study habits." That earned a quiet laugh, and something about it made my stomach twist. He didn't look like he laughed often. Not in a bitter way, just like he usually didn't have the time. Or the company. He slipped his hands into his coat pockets, his fingers drumming softly against the seams. "You live next door?" "Yeah. Just moved in." "Cool," he said, then looked around again. "I grew up in this house." That caught me off guard. "Really?" "Yep. This used to be my room." He pointed to the far corner where the couch sat, and I glanced at Max, suddenly realizing how strange it must feel to come back to a house that used to be yours and see it filled with someone else's life. "Do you want some water or anything?" I asked, partly just to break the silence. He shook his head. "I'm good. I should probably get him home soon. Early morning tomorrow." But he didn't move yet. He leaned against the arm of the couch, his eyes drifting across the dim room, not aimlessly, but like he was measuring something. Maybe time. Maybe me. "You're in school?" he asked, turning his gaze back to me. "Yeah. Part-time classes. Trying to finish my degree." "What major?" I hesitated. "Communications." "I know, super exciting." That smile returned, a little more open this time. "Hey, better than business. At least you won't end up like me." I wanted to ask what like him meant, but he straightened up before I could. "I should get going," he said. He stepped over to the couch and gently scooped Max up into his arms like it was second nature. No struggle, no clumsiness. Just steady hands and quiet strength. As he walked past me toward the door, Max stirred slightly and nestled into his shoulder. "Thanks again," Daniel said, glancing back at me. "You're good with him." I swallowed. "Thanks." He opened the door, then paused. "Night. Night." And just like that, he was gone into the cold, down the steps, out of sight. But the air in the room still felt full, like something had been stirred up and didn't know how to settle. The next time I saw Daniel, it wasn't planned. Not by me, anyway. It had been a few days since that late-night knock, since he'd stood in my doorway like a scene out of some movie I wasn't supposed to be cast in. I kept replaying the moment he looked back and said, "You're good with him," like it meant something. Like he saw something in me I hadn't seen yet. That Thursday, it started to pour. Real, heavy, moody kind of rain. I had the night off and was reading on the couch when I heard another knock. This one softer. Like he wasn't sure I'd be home. It was him. Same coat, same calm face. But something in his eyes looked different. A little less tired, maybe. Or maybe I was just reading into it. "Hey," he said, holding up 2 drinks in plastic bottles. "Thought I'd drop by. Brought soda. Don't worry, strictly legal." I blinked. "Oh, yeah, sure. Come." He stepped inside, brushing a few raindrops off his shoulder. Thunder rolled behind him, distant but steady. As he glanced toward the window, his brow furrowed. "Might wait this one out," he said, half to himself. "Roads flood fast around here." I tried not to look too pleased. He handed me a bottle, root beer, cold and dripping, then shrugged out of his coat and draped it on the chair. Underneath, he wore a fitted dark sweater. Nothing fancy, but it fit him like it was made for him. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. Not at all. He sank into the other end of the couch, one leg folded under the other. Casual but intentional. We talked. About nothing at first, the neighborhood, work, how his sister was doing. Max is obsessed with you now, he said at one point. He asked if the Dino babysitter was coming back. I laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. He smiled. You should. He doesn't like just anyone. The rain tapped the windows, filling the quiet between topics. I asked him what he did. Turns out he worked in real estate development, mostly commercial properties. Busy, stressful, often thankless. What about you? He asked. What's the dream? I hesitated. I don't know. Honestly, I just want to finish my degree, pay off my loans, and maybe not hate what I do for a living. He nodded. That sounds like a pretty solid dream. For a second, we just sipped our sodas in silence. Then he said, You seeing anyone? I nearly choked. What? He laughed. Sorry, that came out weird. I just mean, you seem like someone who should be. No, not really. His eyes didn't leave mine. You ever try dating apps? Briefly. Mostly just weird messages and ghosting. He smirked. Sounds familiar. Wait, you use them too? Used to, he said, leaning back. Got tired of the cycles. The scripts. Meet, talk, ghost, repeat. Felt like shopping more than dating. I nodded slowly. Yeah, like everyone's selling a version of themselves. Exactly. He looked at me again. You're not selling anything. I wasn't sure if it was a compliment, but my face got hot anyway. I set my bottle down on the coffee table, hands suddenly too fidgety. He leaned forward to do the same, and for a second, just a second, our fingers brushed. Not accidental. Not dramatic. Just enough. I froze, but he didn't pull away fast. His hand hovered there, fingertips almost resting on mine. Then he sat back. No explanation. No smirk. My heart was thudding like I'd run a mile. You okay? He asked, voice soft. I nodded. Yeah. Just surprised, I guess. He looked down, then back up. I'm not trying to mess with you or make you uncomfortable. You're not, I said, maybe too quickly. The storm outside deepened, thunder closer now. The lights flickered, just once. He rubbed the back of his neck. I should probably head out before the streets turn into rivers. Or you could wait a bit, I offered, not sure what I was suggesting, or if I even had the courage to mean it. His eyes found mine again. Yeah, maybe I will. We didn't say much after that. Just sat there, 2 root beer bottles between us, the hum of the rain filling the room, and something quiet but undeniable settling in the space between us. Not quite something yet, but no longer nothing. When Daniel finally stood up to leave, the rain had slowed to a gentle patter, like the storm had said its piece and was backing away slowly. He didn't say much, just slipped back into his coat, shook the soda bottle gently before tossing it in the bin, and offered me a small, unreadable smile. Thanks for the company, he said. I nodded, standing awkwardly by the door. Yeah, of course. He didn't touch me, didn't linger, but the way his eyes moved, slow, steady, searching, left me feeling like something had happened, even if nothing technically did. And then he was gone. I shut the door behind him and leaned against it, my fingers still curled from how close they'd been to his. The room felt warmer without him. Too warm, too quiet. I locked up, turned off the living room lights, and went to bed. But sleep wasn't on the menu. I tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling fan circling like it had secrets. Every moment from the evening looped in my head like a movie on shuffle. The way he had looked at me after our hands brushed, the pause when I asked him to stay, how his voice dropped when he said, You're not selling anything. Was I imagining it? I'd been wrong before. Read into things, assumed feelings that weren't mutual. I told myself not to get pulled in just because someone older and charming gave me 5 minutes of attention. But this didn't feel casual or polite. Felt intentional. I reached for my phone, the glow harsh in the dark. On a whim, I searched his name, Daniel plus his last name. And after a bit of digging through property listings and outdated LinkedIn pages, I found it. His profile picture was simple. A slightly blurry photo of him leaning against a balcony rail, city lights behind him. No flashy filters. No shirtless gym pics. Just him, half smiling like he didn't expect the photo to be taken. His bio was short. Something about coffee and buildings. That was it. No relationship status. No rainbow flags. No obvious tells. I scrolled through a few posts, one of Max at the zoo, another of a building ribbon cutting, and then one from 2 years ago tagged at some beach, arms around a group of friends. One of the guys looked a little too close, a hand resting on Daniel's shoulder in a way that didn't feel just friendly. I zoomed in, then stopped myself. "What are you doing?" I asked myself, locking the phone and setting it on my chest. But the answer came quietly, trying to figure out if tonight meant something to him too. The next morning, I texted Emily. "Hey, just wanted to say Max was great again. Let me know if you ever need help." She replied with her usual emojis and sunshine energy. "You're a lifesaver. Seriously. My brother said you were sweet." Smiley face. Sweet. That word. I stared at it, reading it over and over. He told her that? Or did she just say it herself? Did she mean it like, sweet babysitter, or something else? I didn't respond, just left it there and put my phone face down. But that word, sweet, settled into my thoughts and refused to leave. It followed me into the kitchen while I made coffee. It echoed while I showered. It tagged along while I sat in class that afternoon, tapping my pen against my notebook, zoning out while my professor droned on about communication theory. I'd never been called sweet by a guy before. Not like that. Not in a way that made me feel seen. I didn't know what Daniel wanted, if anything. He was older, successful, probably way out of my league. And yet, when he looked at me on that couch, it didn't feel like he saw someone beneath him. Felt like we were equals. Or maybe just two people trying to figure it out. I still didn't sleep much that night, or the night after. But it wasn't restlessness anymore. It was something closer to hope. It had been 4 days. For days of checking my phone more than I should have, half hoping for a text that never came. For days of seeing the world through a slightly different lens. One tinted with possibility, curiosity, and something that made my stomach twist every time I passed by Emily's house. By the 5th morning, I told myself to get over it. People like Daniel didn't circle back. They had lives that moved fast and clean. I was just the guy next door who happened to make good root beer conversation. But then, that afternoon, I saw his car again, parked outside Emily's driveway. Sleek, dark gray, with raindrops drying on the windshield. I froze for a second at my own window, caught between pretending I hadn't seen it and very much wanting to see him. I went back to making ramen. 15 minutes later, a knock at my door. I wiped my hands on a towel, heart already kicking up. I opened the door. Daniel. No coat this time. Just a navy button-up with the sleeves casually rolled. A paper tray with 2 iced coffees in hand. He looked annoyingly good, effortlessly put together, like he'd walked out of a magazine shoot disguised as a quick errand. "Hey," he said, a little breathless like he'd been debating the knock. "Hey," I echoed. He held up the tray. "Thought you might want to pick me up." I was grabbing Max and figured, why not say hi? "Sure. Yeah. Come in." He stepped inside like he'd done it 100 times. The door closed with a soft click behind him, and suddenly it felt like the air had thickened. "Still raining," he noted, glancing at the window. "Always as lately," I said, taking the coffee he offered. He sat on the edge of the couch again, not quite settled in, like he was waiting to see if I'd ask him to stay. "Emily said you've been helping out a lot," he said. "Just a couple times." "Max is cool." "He's obsessed with you," he said with a grin. "You've been upgraded to dinosaur consultant." I laughed. "I'll add it to my resume." A beat passed. He took a sip of coffee and looked around the room, like he was taking inventory, but slowly this time. "You've made this place yours," he said. I raised a brow. "I've been here less than a month." "Still," he said, "some people take years and never figure out how to make a space feel like them." I wasn't sure what to say to that, so I just took another sip of my drink. His eyes landed on me again. "You're easy to be around." That caught me off guard. Is that good? He smiled. Very. Most people fill silence just to avoid it. You don't. I looked down, suddenly aware of the shape of my hands wrapped around the coffee cup. I don't always know what to say. He leaned forward slightly. That's kind of the point. We sat with that for a moment. Then he added, more softly, "You're not like most guys I meet." I looked up. There it was again, that shift in his tone. Not flirty, not obvious. Just genuine. A quiet confession slipped into a moment that didn't ask for one. "I don't know what kind of guys you usually meet," I said carefully. He gave a small shrug. "The kind who want things fast. Who want the idea of you more than they want you." "And what do you want?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me like he was still figuring it out, like maybe he hadn't even meant to say that part out loud. Then softly, "Something slower. Something real." I didn't know what to do with that. My heart was pounding in a way that didn't feel sustainable. The silence stretched, not awkward, just charged. He glanced at the time. "I should head out. Max is probably halfway through a snack raid." "Right?" I said, standing with him. He walked to the door, but didn't open it right away. Instead, he turned to face me again. "You're easy to talk to," he said. "It's rare." I nodded, unsure how to respond. He didn't lean in, didn't touch me, but the way he looked at me, steady, deliberate, said enough. Not yet, but soon. Then, with a quiet smile, he opened the door. "I'll see you around," he said. And before I could say anything else, he was back in the rain. Walking toward his car like this visit hadn't just left something blooming in my chest. The text came on a Thursday evening. "Dinner tomorrow? Just friends.
No expectations.
Unless you're busy being cool with dinosaurs." I stared at it for a solid 2 minutes, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Then I typed, "I could probably pencil you in between T-Rex trivia and bedtime stories." The reply came quick. "I feel honored." We met at a little diner just off the main road. One of those places with faded booths, chipped menus, and waitresses who called everyone honey. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet, comfortable. He was already there when I arrived, tucked in a corner booth, stirring sugar into his coffee, wearing that same calm expression like he owned every moment he stepped into. "You came," he said, standing slightly as I slid in across from him. "I said I would." He smiled. "Some people say yes just to be polite. I'm not one of those people." "Good," he said softly. "Me neither." We ordered. I went for pancakes because why not? He got a grilled cheese and soup like it was comfort food on a cold day. Maybe it was. We talked about everything and nothing, movies we liked, bad roommates we'd survived, favorite cereals. But somewhere between the second refill of coffee and the check arriving, the tone shifted. He leaned back, fingers circling the rim of his cup. "I didn't come out until I was 27. I blinked. "Really?" "Yeah." It wasn't some dramatic moment. I just woke up one day and realized I was tired of avoiding my own life. "Was your family okay with it?" He gave a small shrug. "Emily was. She always kind of knew, I think. My parents took time. And now, they're polite," he said, "but distant. I'm the uncle who lives in the city. The one who doesn't bring +1s to holidays." I didn't know what to say to that. He noticed. "Sorry. I didn't mean to dump all that." "No, I'm glad you told me." He studied me for a second. "What about you?" I exhaled. "I don't know. I mean, I'm out. To my friends, anyway. But I've never really dated. Not seriously." "Why not?" I stared at the chipped vinyl table edge. "Because I never knew what I wanted. And I didn't want to lead anyone on just to figure it out." He nodded slowly. "That's fair. But," I added, meeting his eyes, "I think I want to find out now." He didn't smile, didn't look surprised. He just looked at me, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. After dinner, we stepped outside. The air was cool, tinged with rain that hadn't quite arrived yet. We stood near the parking lot, neither of us moving right away. Streetlights buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. He reached out. Not quickly, not dramatically. and took my hand. His fingers were warm, steady. I let mine rest there, quietly surprised by how right it felt. No pressure.
No rushing.
Just connection. We stood like that for maybe 30 seconds. Then I felt him loosen his grip slightly, unsure. I looked up, and he was already watching me. That same searching expression I'd seen before. He leaned in just an inch, just enough to make the air between us change. Then he stopped, waiting, not asking, not assuming, just offering. I could feel the moment stretch. Not tense, not uncomfortable, just full of possibility. So I spoke, voice barely louder than a whisper. "I'm not in a rush," I said. "But I'm not walking away either." He smiled, not wide but real. That's all I needed to hear. He stepped back then, letting my hand go gently. "I should get Max home," he said. "Yeah, makes sense. But I'll text you? I hope you do." He nodded once, got in his car and drove away. But this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the start of something honest. Something slow. Something real. It had been a few weeks since that night outside the diner. Since his hand found mine. Since I told him I wasn't walking away. We didn't define anything after that. No grand labels. No announcements. But there was an unspoken rhythm between us now. Small things, quiet moments. A text in the middle of the day. A knock at the door when I wasn't expecting it. Coffee cups left behind on my table. One with lipstick from his sister. The other with the tiniest smudge of his fingerprint still on the lid. We kept it quiet. Not out of fear, but out of something gentler. Protection. Privacy. The kind of quiet you hold close because it's still growing. Max didn't seem to care. If anything, he was thrilled every time I showed up. To him, I was the dinosaur guy, the swing pusher, the peanut butter sandwich expert. I wasn't his uncle's friend in any complicated way. I was just me, and that was enough. That Sunday, we met at the park. The air was crisp, the sky scattered with lazy clouds. Daniel had suggested it, said Max needed to burn off energy and he could use some fresh air. I arrived just as they were stepping out of the car. Max spotted me first. "There he is!" he shouted, arms flailing as he sprinted across the grass. I barely had time to drop my backpack before he collided into my legs like a small missile. "I brought my T-Rex," he declared, holding up a battered plastic figure. I laughed. "You always come prepared." Daniel followed at a slower pace, hands in his pockets, sunglasses perched in his hair. He wore a dark green jacket and jeans, simple but impossibly well-fitted, like the wind knew to leave him alone. "He begged to bring the toy," Daniel said as he reached us. "Swore you'd be offended if he didn't." "I would have been," I said, grinning. We found an empty bench under a tree while Max ran ahead toward the play structure, his toy bouncing in one hand like a trophy. Daniel handed me a coffee without asking if I wanted one. He already knew. Hazelnut. 2 sugars. A little too sweet, just the way I liked it. "Thanks," I said. He sat beside me, one leg crossed over the other, watching Max with a soft smile. "He really likes you." I sipped my coffee, glancing at him sideways. Yeah, he said, then added, "I do too." My heart flipped, not dramatically, not like in the movies. It was quieter than that, like a lock turning open from the inside. "I think I like you too," I said. He didn't respond right away, just leaned back against the bench and closed his eyes for a second, breathing in like the words were fresh air. We sat like that, shoulders almost touching, coffee cups warm between our hands, while Max ran up the slide backwards, giggling to himself. "I didn't expect this," Daniel said after a while. "Not here. Not like this."